Clara's fists hammer against the silver star pinned to Sheriff Dawson's chest. The metal cuts into her knuckles, but she doesn't stop. Her white Sunday dress clings to her sweaty skin, dirt streaking from her knees to her collar where she fell running. Across the churchyard, you promised. Her voice cracks like a whip. Across the stone steps, you promised Mama you'd bring him home. The congregation spills out behind them, their Sunday best in hushed prayers forgotten. Mrs. Henderson clutches her purse tighter. The Reverend's mouth hangs open, like he's never hurt a child. Scream before Sheriff Dawson's hands hover near Clara's shoulders. But don't quite touch Clara, honey. You need to calm down now, don't you, honey me? She pounds his badge again. The metal makes a hollow sound. 3 weeks. 3 weeks you said you'd find Papa these things. Take time, you're lying. Sheriff Dawson's jaw twitches. His radio crackles with static from his belt behind him. Deputy Mills shifts his weight from boot to boot, eyes scanning the crowd like he's looking for an escape route. Your Papa, he probably just needed some spacemen. Do that sometimes. Papa wouldn't leave us. Clara's voice goes higher, sharper. He wouldn't leave without saying goodbye. The sheriff glances at the congregation. 40 pairs of eyes stare back at him. Some of them look angry, most look afraid. He knows which ones have husbands who haven't come home. Either Clara Elizabeth Morrison, you get down from there right now. Ruth Morrison's voice cuts through the crowd like a blade. She pushes through the bodies in their Sunday clothes, her own dress pressed and proper, despite everything falling apart. Clara spins around. Mama, tell him Papa wouldn't just leave. Ruth reaches the bottom step. Her eyes meet Sheriff Dawson's over her daughter's head. Something passes between them, something cold and knowing and full of the kind of secrets small towns bury deep. Sheriff Ruth says quietly, we need to talk. The radio on his belt crackles again. Voice reports another missing person. This time it's Bill Henderson. Mrs. Henderson's purse hits the ground. The radio on Sheriff Dawson's belt squawks. Again. Sheriff, we got another one. Bill Henderson didn't come home last night. Wife's asking questions. Ruth watches the sheriff's face go white behind her. Mrs. Henderson's sob echoes off the church stones. Clara's fists still clench at her sides, but now she's looking at her mother instead of the badge. How many? Ruth's voice cuts through the morning air like a prayer turned sour. Ma'am, how many men have gone missing? Sheriff Dawson's eyes dart to Deputy Mills. The younger man's hand rests on his gun belt, fingers tapping against the leather. The congregation hasn't moved. They stand frozen like they're watching a house burn down. Mrs. Morrison, this isn't the place for answer. Her Clara's voice is smaller now but harder, like steel wrapped in silk. 3 Dawson admits, including your husband. 3 that you're telling us about. Ruth steps closer. Her Sunday shoes click against the stone. What about Tommy Garrett? What about Frank Walsh? The sheriff's mouth opens, closes, opens again. Those men left town. Different situation entirely. Did they? Ruth's question hangs in the air like smoke. Or did someone want us to think they left? Mrs. Henderson pushes through the crowd. Her face is red and blotchy from crying. Sheriff, you told me Bill was probably visiting his brother in the next county. Same thing you told the Morrisons about James. That's right, Bill doesn't have a brother. The crowd shifts. Whispers start like wind through wheat. Ruth feels the change in the air, the way fear moves through people when they finally start asking the right questions. Mama. Clara tugs at Ruth's dress. What's happening? Ruth looks down at her daughter, 10 years old, and already learning that the men who wear badges don't always tell the truth, that promises get broken, that sometimes the people meant to protect you are the ones you need protecting from. We're going to find Papa. Ruth says. Her voice carries across the churchyard. With or without the sheriff's help. Clara pulls her mother's hand toward the back of their property, where the old stone well squats like a broken tooth against the evening sky. The rope and bucket hang crooked from years of neglect, but the memories around it shine bright as new pennies. Papa used to bring me here every Sunday after church, Clara says. Her voice is softer now, tired from crying. We'd throw coins and make wishes, I remember. He said the well was magic, said it kept our secrets safe. Ruth kneels beside the well's edge. The stones are dark with moss and age, but something else catches her eye. Fresh tire tracks cut deep grooves in the mud around the base. Wide tracks, heavy truck, maybe 2 trucks. Clara, when was the last time Papa brought you here? 3 weeks ago. The Sunday before Clara's voice trails off. Ruth runs her fingers along the well's metal rim. A piece of blue fabric flutters from where it's caught on a rusted bolt. She knows that fabric. James wore that blue work shirt every day to the lumber mill. Mama, what is it? Your papa's shirt. Ruth holds up the torn piece. Her hands shake. Part of it anyway. So he was here, yes, but not alone. Ruth points to the tire track. Someone else was here too, someone who didn't want to be seen. Clara moves closer to the well. The opening yawns black beneath them, deeper than either of them can see. Mama, what if Papa didn't leave us? What if someone made him leave? Ruth stands. The fabric feels cold in her palm, despite the warm evening air around them. The farmhouse windows glow yellow with lamplight, but everything else feels dark and wrong. We need to go inside. But what about Papa's wish? Well, Ruth looks down into the black water far below. Something pale floats near the surface. Could be trash, could be something else. I don't think this well grants wishes anymore, baby. What does it do now? Ruth folds the blue fabric and slips it into her pocket. The tire tracks tell a story she's not ready to finish reading. Not until she knows who made them and why they needed her husband's silence. Now it keeps secrets, she says, the kind of secrets that get people hurt. The knock comes before sunrise. Ruth sees the squad car's headlights cutting through her kitchen window as she pours coffee with shaking hands. Clara's bare feet pad across the floor behind her. Mama, go to the screen door. Listen, but don't come out. Sheriff Dawson stands on the porch with Deputy Mills behind him. Both men look like they haven't slept. Dawson's uniform is wrinkled, and his badge sits crooked on his chest. Mrs. Morrison, we need to search your property. Do you have a warrant? We're investigating a missing person case. Your husband. My husband, who you said probably just needed space. Ruth steps onto the porch. The blue fabric from James's shirt crinkles in her pocket. My husband, who you said would come home when he was ready. Dawson's eyes flick to his deputy. Things have changed. What things? We found some evidence that suggests your husband might have been involved in something. Involved in what? Ruth pulls the fabric from her pocket, holds it up between them. You mean involved in getting his shirt torn at our own? Well, the sheriff's face goes white. Deputy Mills takes a step back behind the screen door. Clara presses her face against the mesh. Where did you find that? You know where I found it, Mrs. Morrison. You need to let us search this property. Why? So you can plant more evidence. Ruth's voice gets harder. So you can make my husband look guilty of whatever you're trying to cover up. Ma'am, I think you're misunderstanding. I understand plenty. She steps closer. I understand that 3 men are missing. I understand that you keep lying about where they went. I understand that you're more interested in searching my land than finding my husband. Dawson's hand moves to his gun belt, not threatening, just nervous. Mrs. Morrison, we're trying to help. Are you, or are you trying to make sure I don't ask the right questions? What questions would those be? Ruth looks at the badge on his chest. The same badge Clara beat with her fists yesterday. Questions about who's been using my well. Questions about whose trucks left those tire marks. Questions about why you're so scared of what I might find. Sheriff Dawson opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. No words come out. Ruth leads Clara through the iron cemetery gates where 3 generations of Morrison women rest under weathered headstones. Her grandmother's grave sits between her own mother's and great-grandmother's, like they're still talking across the years. Old Mary Hutchins tends the flower beds near the gate. Her bent back straightens when she sees Ruth approaching. Mary's been keeping this cemetery for 40 years, knows every story buried beneath the ground. Heard about your James, Mary says. Her voice sounds like gravel and smoke. Heard the sheriff's got no answers. Not the first time. Ruth kneels beside her grandmother's headstone. Clara traces the carved letters with her finger. No, won't be the last either. What do you mean? Mary sets down her watering can. Her eyes scan the cemetery like she's counting ghosts. Your grandmother, she used to come here asking about her brother. Said he wandered off one summer, never came back. I never heard about a brother. Course you didn't. Women weren't supposed to talk about it. Mary points to a cluster of graves near the back wall. See those stones? They're all wives and daughters of men who wandered off, all asking the same questions you're asking now. Clara looks up from the headstone. How many men wandered off? Too many to count. Child, going back 50 years or more. Ruth stands. The pattern becomes clear now, written in stone and silence. They all asked questions. They all got the same answers you're getting. Men need space. Men get restless. Men follow opportunities in other towns. Mary's laugh sounds bitter, but women stay women. Bury their dead women. Remember, what did they remember? That the men who wandered off all had something in common. They all worked for the same people. They all knew the same secrets. Mary's eyes meet Ruth's. They all asked the wrong questions to the wrong people. And the sheriff, honey, we've had 4 different sheriffs in my time. Here, same story every time, same lies, dressed up different. Mary picks up her watering can. But you're different. How you got proof? That fabric you found that well. Mary starts walking toward the gates. Question is, what you gonna do with it? The black sedan pulls up to Ruth's farmhouse just as she and Clara return from the cemetery. The woman who steps out looks like she walked off a magazine cover, but her eyes carry the same haunted look Ruth sees in her own mirror. Mrs. Morrison. The woman approaches the porch. Sarah Blake. Ruth recognizes her immediately from the newspaper photos. Governor Blake's daughter, the one who went to law school back east and never talks to reporters. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you privately. Ruth glances at Clara. Baby, go inside and work on your homework. But Mama. Now Clara disappears through the screen door, but Ruth knows. She's listening from the kitchen. Sarah Blake waits until the footsteps fade before speaking. My father is involved in what happened to your husband. Your father is the governor. Yes, and he's been using his position to acquire land for development. Land that belongs to families like yours. Sarah pulls a manila envelope from her purse. Families whose men ask too many questions about property values and mineral rights. Ruth's hands shake as she takes the envelope. What's in here? Contracts, bank records, correspondence between my father and local officials about removing obstacles to development. Sarah's voice drops to a whisper. Your husband found out about the well on your property. It's not just water down there. What else? Natural gas. Deposits worth millions. Your family's been sitting on it for generations without knowing. Ruth opens the envelope. Pages of official documents spill out. Governor Blake's signature appears on dozens of contracts. Sheriff Dawson's name appears as a witness. James found out. He started asking questions at the county clerk's office. Questions about who was buying up surrounding properties. Questions about why families were being pressured to sell. Sarah points to one of the documents. This is a purchase order for your land dated 2 days before your husband disappeared. They killed him for this. They've killed others. The men who wandered off, they didn't wander. They were removed. Sarah's voice hardens. My father calls it cleaning up loose ends. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of watching him destroy families. Because I have a daughter too, and I want her to grow up in a world where the truth matters. Sarah turns toward her car. There's enough evidence in that envelope to destroy them all. Sheriff Dawson, the county clerk, the development company, all of them. What about your father? Especially my father. The church fills beyond capacity. By Sunday evening, Ruth stands at the altar with Clara beside her, the manila envelope spread open across the communion table. Every pew is packed. People stand along the walls and crowd. The aisles. The air feels electric with 40 years of buried secrets finally surfacing. Most of you know why we're here. Ruth begins. Her voice carries clear and strong to the back of the building. Some of you have been living with the same questions. You've been asking questions about husbands and fathers and sons who wandered off. Mrs. Henderson stands from the third pew. They didn't wander off. No, they didn't. Ruth holds up the first document. They were murdered for this, for land, for money, for asking the wrong questions to the wrong people. Sheriff Dawson enters through the back doors with Deputy Mills and 2 other officers. Their hands rest on their gun belts. The congregation turns to watch them take positions along the rear wall. Mrs. Morrison. Dawson calls out, you need to stop this right now, or what, you'll make me disappear too. You're making accusations you can't prove. Ruth picks up the purchase order with Dawson's signature. I can prove everything. She reads aloud. Contract for acquisition of Morrison property, signed by Sheriff Robert Dawson. As witness, dated 2 days before my husband's disappearance. The crowd erupts. Voices rise in anger and disbelief. Mrs. Henderson shouts something about Bill. Other women stand and point accusations at the sheriff. That's enough. Dawson's hand moves too. His weapon. Old Mary Hutchins rises from her seat near the front. 40 years. I've been burying victims of your corruption. 40 years of women asking questions and getting lies. Mrs. Hutchins, you need to sit down. I need to speak truth. Mary turns to face the congregation. My own son asked questions about missing men next week. He wandered off. 2 more families stand. The Garrett widow. The Walsh children, grown now but still grieving their father. Voices blend together, sharing stories that have been whispered in kitchen corners for decades. Tommy saw them dumping something in the old quarry. Frank found papers about mineral rights. They threatened my husband when he talked to the county clerk. Ruth watches Sheriff Dawson's face go pale. Behind him, Deputy Mills shifts nervously. The other officers look like they want to run. The truth doesn't disappear, Ruth says, no matter how many people you silence. Clara steps forward. Her small voice cuts through the noise. You promised to bring Papa home. Now bring him home. Clara kneels beside the fresh headstone carved with her papa's name. The wildflowers in her small hands are yellow and purple, the kind James used to pick for her on their walks to the well. Ruth stands behind her daughter, watching Clara arrange the stems with careful precision. Is Papa really here now? Yes, baby. He's here. Does he know we found him? Ruth touches the headstone. The marble feels warm under the afternoon sun. He knows they found the bodies 3 days after. Sheriff Dawson's arrests 17 unmarked graves on Governor Blake's private hunting land hidden in a grove of oak trees that had been growing over secrets for decades. James was the newest burial. Some of the others had been there so long their bones had gone white as chalk. Mama, do you think Papa's proud of us? I think he's proud of you for being brave, for not giving up when everyone told us to. Clara stands and brushes dirt from her knees. Her white dress is clean today, pressed and proper, like it was that first Sunday when she beat her fists against the sheriff's badge. But her eyes are different, now older, harder. The promise is kept. Yes, the promise is kept. They walk back toward the cemetery gates together. Behind them, the wildflowers flutter in the breeze like small prayers finally answered. Ruth takes Clara's hand. Both of them know the world is still dangerous, still full of men who lie and women who suffer in silence. But they also know something else now. They know their own strength.